For those of you who don't know Mr. Peter Downey, he's the head honcho for our planning commissioner, and one hardworking guy.
All right, just to give a little background about myself, I am a shellfish farmer. I have a farm in Discovery Bay, and I have been sentenced to another year as chair of the Planning Commission. Kind of because no one else would do it, I think. The Planning Commission, you have to understand the process that we have gone through to get to where we are today. Ecology approached Jefferson County with a grant in hand to develop the Shoreline Master Program. Jefferson County was looking, and by 2011, they had to come up with an update of the Shoreline Master Program, and without the grant from Ecology, they saw, from a staffing point of view, a very difficult process to get through. And so Jefferson County accepted that money from Ecology, and that process was started, and it set up two committees, a policy advisory committee and a technical advisory committee. And the policy advisory committee had, I was on that committee representing aquaculture. We had a person representing the Planning Commission. We had someone from the home builders and someone from the realtors, but we also had tribes, we had environmental groups, we had DNR, we had a whole lot of people on that policy committee. The technical advisory committee was primarily regulatory entities, scientists, tribes, that sort of thing, that really were dealing with only supposedly the science part of it and not with the policy side of it. And so out of those two committees came an original draft that then the staff took another 3 months to rewrite with Ecology after it came out of those two advisory committees before it came to the Planning Commission. So the draft that is for the Planning Commission, really the Planning Commission didn't have any say in what that draft was. We accepted that draft, and that's the initial public hearing that you saw, and that's the initial draft that is there before you. The Planning Commission there was over 400 comments, written comments, on that draft to the Planning Commission. They ranged from dealing with mining activities, we don't want to see mining on our shorelines, to the setbacks are too big for residential areas, and you name it, we had comments on it. And the Planning Commission members all read those comments very carefully and categorized those comments and looked at them. I looked at every single one, I read every single one. I think every single Planning Commission member read every single one. From that, then we started our deliberations on the Shoreline Master Program that was in front of us. And there are some fairly substantive changes that we are recommending that will be going to the Board of County Commissioners. For instance, the 150-foot buffer we're saying for shoreline residential and for high-intensity uses should be down to 50 foot, not 150 feet, but 50 feet. And the reason for that, from my point of view, is that you look at the functions of those buffers, and those buffers, from a scientific point of view, are set up for a couple different reasons. One is for water quality, another is for habitat values. In those developed areas, the argument is made that the habitat values are not really there, but you do still want to protect the water quality values. 50 feet of buffer, of vegetated buffer, gives you, for the most part here in Western Washington, gives you your water quality buffer that you need. And so that's was the reason why, from my point of view, it was okay to go from a 150-foot buffer down to a 50-foot buffer in those shoreline residential and high-intensity areas. The other big hot button was reconstruction of a house, for instance, that burns on the shoreline. And gosh, God, I hope that that never happens, that we ever have to worry about that, but someone's going to have to worry about it sometime. And from the Planning Commission point of view is you really are not gaining very much by pushing that house back. If you look at net loss, there is no net loss if you rebuild it where it is. There might be a small gain if you push it back, but even that's questionable. For the anxiety that it creates, for the gain that you get, it's not worth it, in my opinion. And so the Planning Commission is recommending that you can reconstruct on your existing footprint if you have destruction of that house, provided that destruction is not from a landslide or some other geological hazard. You know, if your hillside falls into the bay, we don't want you to build your house right where it was because it's probably going to slip again. So we have tried to be responsive in a number of issues in a number of areas, and I would hope that everyone would get a chance to read the Planning Commission draft and to look at it very carefully and look at what we tried to do. We tried to move away from, one of our goals was to move away from conditional use permits, which require additional review at Department of Ecology. And there are some activities, for instance mining, that require a conditional use permit. But those activities that don't require a conditional use permit under the WAC, Washington Administrative Code, those decisions that can be made locally, the Planning Commission feels that they should be made locally. So we're recommending that we move away from conditional use permits where we can into substantial development permits that are all local decision. With that, I'd be happy to I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I really encourage everyone to really read the Planning Commission draft and get behind what they like and what they don't like in the Planning Commission draft, because it is quite different from the original staff draft. I think it's easier to count the number of pages that we didn't change compared to the pages that we changed.